The question is, which area is a good investment area for me? Which area is a good investment area for me? So which area is good? Where can I find good deals? That's the real question, right? So which area is a good area for me? Okay, that's the question. Is that question very clear with everyone? If the question is clear to you, just say yes in the comments there. Which area is a good investment area for me? Or should I say, where can I find good deals? You know, you're just starting off, or maybe you've bought 1 or 2 properties, but all of those properties that you actually bought, you know, they were kind of like by default, you know. So you were working in Randburg for argument's sake, so you chose the area Randburg as a place like for home for you, and then you got moved to Durban, and then you decided, this property can become a property investment. But this is now more of an intentional thing, right? You are staying wherever you are staying, and you are happy with wherever you are staying. But now the question is, which area is a good area for you in terms of investments? Which area is a good investments area for me? All right. So I just want to get a yes from you if you're understanding that question, and if the question is very clear to you. And if it's one of those questions that one of those things that you also struggle with currently, just hit me up there in the comments. Say yes, TJ, I'm also struggling with that one. Okay, so let's start off the first thing ever. So I'm going to try to give you maybe about 5 to 7 things that I learned out of this. And for 6 months, I was doing the same thing. So I went to school, I got educated, and in my class, they said to me, hey, when you get out of here, you need to be an area specialist. I liked that because I think what it gave me the ability to actually go in and zoom in into an area. And at that particular time, my wife and I, we had our family home just outside Northgate area. Okay, so between Northgate and Clearwater Mall. For some of you, that sounds gibberish because you don't stay in this side of the world in Johannesburg. But anyways, that's where I used to say. And so I decided, okay, fine. I think my good area that I want to start off from is an area that's called Windsor, right? It sounds like it is an area from Games of the Throne, isn't it? Yeah. So I decided, my first area, let me go and specialize in an area called Windsor. Why did I choose that? Number one is because it is an area that is very close to me. So in terms of going out to look for opportunities, I don't spend a lot of time in traffic, and it's just around the corner from me. If I get a flip or if I get a property that needs to be done a renovation, it's fairly close to me. I am able to get there very quickly, and I'll be able to sort it out. If I have a tenant and there's a problem, when you're a newbie, you almost kind of like want to do everything on your own. It's fine, but I don't advocate for such kind of things. I'm a big fan of you need to work with a team. But hey, when you are starting off, you just have your 2-bed, 1-bath. So obviously, sometimes you might have that big team. So the first thing that I'd say is, are you comfortable? Are you comfortable with that area? So yes, in my school, they said you need to be an area specialist. Great. So I banked that, and I started looking into an area called Windsor. And the first advice that I'd like to give, or how I now work, is, are you comfortable with that area? That's the first thing that you need to be cognizant of. So I went into Windsor, and I was happy with Windsor. I was able to walk the streets. I was able to park my car. And for some of you who know Windsor, there's the bad side and then there's the good side of Windsor. All neighborhoods are like that. There's always a good and a bad. So whilst I'm in it, I try to figure out who is who in the area. So if I'm walking around, do I know which estate agent is dominant in this area? So I start reaching out to that estate agent. Okay. The only thing you can see that is that obviously the more you drive in the area, the more you walk around in the area, you actually see more and more of their boards. That's when you see that the estate agent they're dominant in this area. In normal cases, it's an estate agent who's actually a person or a company. If it is a person, good, then you can reach out to them for deals. If it is not an individual, but it's a number of individuals, then it's also good because you have multiple people to work off with, right? So that's the first one. The first one is, are you comfortable with that particular area? And for me, Windsor was good. However, it was not a good investment for me. Why? I looked and looked and looked for more deals, and I literally know up to today, I know the street names, I know the street vendors, I know what the form of activities that happens in Windsor, but nothing matured in Windsor for me. So for that reason, what I started doing is that I decided, let me do the orthodox, right? Let me go the unconventional route. Yes, I understand I needed to be a specialist. So that's what you learn. Sometimes what you learn, you need to put it in practice. When you put it in practice, you need to use your common sense as well to see whether it is working for you. So I decided, no, I am not going to do that. I am not going to become an area specialist. I am going to look for more and more areas to work in. It just basically means that it was going to be more cost for me. And it also just meant that I am now studying more areas. So what I did is that I looked at where I was staying and I said to myself, I want to have a 5-kilometer radius and which neighborhoods are very close to me. So I looked at myself and I looked on the Google Maps and I did a 5-kilometer radius, right? What was I looking for? I was looking for an area that I'm comfortable with, okay? Remember the first one that we spoke about, area that you're comfortable with. So I looked at the comfort, and then I also looked at areas that I know and that I do understand without putting in any effort. So that's point number 2. Without putting in any effort, areas that I knew and understand. Okay. So do you understand this area very well? If you understand it, great. If you know it, great. So guess what? The area that I stumbled upon very closely was an area that is called Cosmo City. So I started farming in Cosmo City, and I realized that Windsor together with Cosmo City are not good areas for me. And this was about 6 months, and I'm digging. I'm walking down the streets. I know, like when I go to Cosmo, I know factually they've got area demarcations in there, and I am looking at all of these. I know where the RDP houses fall off. I know where the new houses fall in. I know where the 5 million, the higher prices of the 5 million houses are in. I know all of those. So I got comfortable with both of those two areas, but none of them were yielding a result for me. So I said, okay, great. So what's next? Again, I went back to my drawing board and I cast my radius and I said, what about a 10-kilometer radius? Again, I'm still working on the principle of where I stay versus where I'm investing, okay? And we say, okay, fine, in a 10-kilometer radius, where else can we go? And then I had a brainwave. The brainwave was that when I was looking in Windsor, yes, I could see the opportunities, but the biggest challenges was not around opportunities, not to close the opportunities themselves, but it was because that when I had left school, a whole lot of us kind of like stay in the north, kind of thing, the Northgate areas, going into the Sandton, Randburg areas, Bryanston. So a lot of us, it's people that I knew, a lot of us were actually digging in the same neighborhood. So I started thinking, how best can I go where there is no competition? Right? And basically I did my 10-kilo radius and boom, I fell upon Kempton Park, right? And Kempton Park is a little bit further away from my house. And I think at that time, I was the only guy who was really looking for properties for investments. And Lord behold, there was just a whole lot of properties for me to choose from. And I just started buying left, right, center. Then one of my other brothers, we started actually hanging out together, and today both of us were there. Now, the process was very simple. Where do I stay? 5 kilometer radius, I looked for properties in an area that I'm comfortable to invest in an area that I know and understand. Those are the two things, right? And then I stumbled upon Kempton Park. And when I stumbled upon Kempton Park, then I liked it. Then again, whilst I was in Kempton Park, I went a little bit out and I stumbled upon Boksburg. And Boksburg again, boom, more properties again to invest in. But let me go back to, I want to go back to the point number 3. When you are now in these areas and you are comfortable with that area and you know it, right? What do I mean by know it? And I'm reinforcing again. Are you comfortable to walk around the streets? Are you comfortable to drive around the street? Are you comfortable? For me, the question is, can you take your kids along with you to your property investment? Right? Can you take your kids along with you? Can you walk around? Can you take your wife and hold hands and walk in the streets? That's the question. If the answer is yes, it's a good area to invest in. It's a good area. You're comfortable with it. That's my deep stick. Okay. I take my kids to my investment properties. I take my wife to my investment properties. My wife goes there sometimes on her own, right? Shooting videos and doing all these things, right? So the third thing that I then want to speak about, and today you're just going to allow me to have a little bit of more me time with you. We are answering questions here, right? So it's a little bit of education that we're doing here. What are you buying for, right? So you now know this area, you're comfortable with this area, but what are you buying for? Are you buying for a buy-to-let? So you're buying to grow your portfolio asset base, or are you buying for flips? Let it be known, I am no fan of flips at all. I don't like them. In the last 5 years or so, it hasn't been great from a South African perspective for us to be doing a lot of heavy flips, but I personally don't like them. If I stumble upon it, I don't go out to look for flips because that's not my vision of building my business and my legacy. Flips don't build no legacy, right? I want to say it again. Flips don't build no legacy because I'm buying today and I'm selling tomorrow. And for that reason, I'm banking some money here. And yes, someone could say, hey, TJ, you can bank 500,000 here and you can go and put it into something else that you are wanting to do. I have something that is totally different. And I'm of the view that, yes, I'd like to flip to myself, right? I like to flip to myself. And that's something I'll cover on another video. But today, I don't like selling assets. That's the thing for me. I'm not happy with selling for assets. But let's not digress. Let's go back to our point number 3. What are you buying for? Are you buying for a flip or are you buying for a buy-to-let? Your mind should be very clear on what you are wanting to do, because the area is then going to be in cahoots with you, right? So if you're buying for the other way around, then if you're not so sure what you're buying for, then that's where the conflict is. If you're knowing by no doubt and you're knowing what you're looking for, you'll get it because you know what you're looking for. But if you're not so sure what you're looking for, then anything can come in. And if anything comes in, you're going to take anything, right? So that's the thing, right? That is the thing. Okay, good. So point number 4. I like to buy in areas that are old suburbs. I like to buy areas that are old suburbs. Why do I do that? The reason behind that is that when I look at my 5-kilometer radius, I look at my 10-kilometer radius, and now you all know, if you don't know and this is your first time being here, I invest in Cape Town, I invest in Durban, I invest in Pretoria. These are now like 1,000 kilometers away from where I am. But there's a reason for that. The reason behind that is that when you have exhausted your 5, your 10 kilometers, and you're now comfortable and you're feeling like you've got a little bit of muscle, you now know a little bit, you start going to other areas to exploit the strategies in those areas. Not all areas you go in and you do buy-to-lets. Not all areas. Some areas are just good for a specific something. And what is that specific something? If you get it, then that's what you tackle. So I'm going to come back to point number 4. I buy in old suburbs. Why do I buy in old suburbs? I buy in old suburbs for the reasons that if you look at the old houses or the old properties that are built back in the days, you would find that these houses came with, number one, big yards, okay, 1,005, 2,000 squares, things like that, right? Where do you still get houses that are like that? Where do you still get houses like that in today's world? Very few, okay? So that's number one. Number two, the actual properties that are built, whether it is it's a block of flats, a unit or so, or whether it is a big house, you'd find that in today's build, you can literally take a two bed, one bath, and you can literally plug it into a one big bedroom that's en suite, right? 46 squares. That's how they are building these days, is a 2-bed, 1 bath. So why do I then go on into the old suburbs? In the old suburbs, you get value for money. They are old, yes, but you are going to get a bigger stand, which means that your growth, you can still have a little bit of growth, right? So my specialty, buy-to-lets. That's what I like doing. So for that reason, I am buying so that we can extend, right? So if I'm buying a property, and if it's a freestanding house, I'm looking at ways, how else can I extract some more value out of this property in about a year or two if I'm buying it. But in today's world, am I banking in some bucks? That's the question. If the answer is yes, and I can still expand, I'm going to do it, right? Very simple. Okay, good. Now, you are looking for old suburbs because if I give you an example, I am here out in just next door into an area that is called Florida. And this is an old suburb. It's an old suburb that is turning around. And we bought a building there. And actually what happened in this particular building is that the units were 1-bed units, and they were humongous, about 102 squares or something like that. But if you look at today's builds, you're getting them much smaller. So you're getting them at like maybe about 46 squares, 50 squares. But what we did is that we converted this, we did some renovation work, we split it into half, and we came up with 2 beds. Now, when we bought it, we were charging 3,500 because it was a 1-bed. When we put an extra wall to create 2 beds, we were charging 5,500. Now, you tell me whether that is not a good price. Obviously, yes, you've put in some more effort into the property, but that's a good thing. So, knowing I like to buy in the old suburbs for those 3 reasons. The other reason that I'm going to throw in is that old suburbs, they come with distressed properties. Old suburbs comes with distressed properties. Hey, TJ, what do you mean by distressed properties? Okay, they've been staying there for the last 10 years, 20 years. Actually, 10 years to 20 years is not really old for me. I like to look at properties that have been physically standing maybe for the last maybe 20 plus, all right? Neighborhoods that are like that. The chances of you finding a property where the family, the mother and the father have been divorced, very high. The father is late, the mother cannot take care of the house anymore, or the other way around, very high. Chances of you finding a house where they haven't just looked after their property, very high. Okay, so now the very highs that I'm talking about, all of these are opportunities, right? They are all opportunities for you, right? So that's what it basically means. It means that all of these are now opportunities for you. Now, the question that I then ask is that, what are you looking for? Even if you're looking from a flip perspective, right? It's still a good area, but I'm not a good fan of flips. I'm a good fan of buy-to-let. So for that reason, I am looking for the old neighborhood where I can see there's more value on the property. So if it is 2,000, 3,000 squares, I'm going to buy it, okay, because there is more value in the long run. That's number one. Number two, the house itself, in terms of a square meterage perspective, it's big. So I can play around with it to create more living space, which is the important part here, right? Okay, because if I have more living space, I can charge more. If I have more living space, I can charge more. That's the secret. That's the secret in buy to let. Okay. Now, the sixth question is that potentially you can have what we call distressed sellers. Distressed sellers. And this here, actually, the sixth point, distressed sellers, you can literally find them anywhere. The reality of it, you can find them anywhere, either in the new builds or in the old suburbs, right? Because distressed sellers, it's about me, the individual. I am not just able to pay off my debt, so hence I'm now distressed. The first one, which we're talking about on point number 6, is distressed properties, right? So the property itself is run down, so that's the distressed part. But this point here that we're talking about, point 6, it's about the distressed seller. The distressed seller is not able to pay off their debt, and for that reason, this property here may be going into auction, so you might catch it before auction. I'm not a big fan of auctions. I don't do it anymore. I've done it maybe for about 4 or 5 months when I started off in my game. It's not a strategy that I enjoy. I'm a relationship-based person, so I work with a lot of estate agents that bring deals to me. So who are you in terms of your personality, and also that can help you to look for property investments. That was just a bonus point that I just thought, let me throw you out there in terms of looking for opportunities. How can you know that this area is a good investment for you? The last point that I'm going to throw out to you is there's a whole lot. I'm just giving you my theory of how to get yourself in the game. And if you've got a property that you bought by default, and this time around, you're becoming intentional in how you can actually buy investment properties. So you've got 3, 4, I don't know how many you've got, but you're becoming intentional. The last point, this is a very good important part, is that how well do you understand the area in terms of the activity, the growth in the area? How well do you understand that area? So we get all sorts of reports that comes through, and I'm going to dump some names here. The one that I like, the property report that I like to work with, is the TPN report, right? You can go online, tpn.co.za. They are there. The tenant, you get what they call the investors pack. In the investors pack, it gives me a wider, you can go and pull either a suburb report. A suburb report will give an indication of rental income, how much people are paying there. It gives you an area of are there more investors living, investors who are buying in that area, more owners buying and staying in that area. There's a wider array of things that the TPN report gives you compared to Lightstone and the others that I also come by. So that's my thing, right? That's my thing that I enjoy doing, and I like to utilize that option. So the last option is how well do you understand that suburb from a factual perspective, not from a walking by, not from a feel and see. You can quantify that, yes, with the activity part, but you're actually seeing it. Okay, those were my 7 points that I thought, let me just throw out to you. And I am sure that those 7 points, they are going to make you grow, for you to be able to find which area actually is a good investment for you, or how you can find these investments for you. So Google says, in other words, your strategy dictates the area you invest in. Definitely, that's the point. I'm hoping that Google is still listening, And what you're looking for is definitely what you want to be chasing, right? And I think a very good example here is Google. I know Google, I think you are from Debs. So let's take an example, Balito, right? Balito, it's an old neighborhood. I like Balito myself. One of these days, I'm going to buy myself a house there, a holiday home. I like Balito. But Balito, you have all of those houses that are kind of like on the coastal side and big houses, things like that. Are they good for rent to buying? Not really, isn't, right? But are they good for buy to let for I had the name in my head for right now, for holiday makers? Yes, they are. And you can make a whole lot of money for Airbnb during the holiday times. That's true, isn't it? So the area already is dictating for you. If you come out of the Balito areas, that's the coastal part, and you're coming in, I think there's a whole lot of complexes that are there built on the beach. Again, all of those, I've stayed there myself. I know that area very well. And those houses that are facing the beach, a lot of the people that have bought in that areas, they have bought for investment purposes and they rent them out to holiday makers. So if you are going to be doing a buy-to-let, a normal buy-to-let in a complex like that one, are you banking more money or are you banking less money? So the area, yes, 100%, sometimes it dictates what is happening. Okay.